when we got a phone call on this, I couldn't believe it, and I said, let's check into this story. So the Blaze started doing their homework on it and got a couple of reporters on it. And in the Blaze today, we have the story of the New Jersey mother charged with terroristic threats, and her guns have been taken out of her house after questioning her taxes. I want you to read this story. This is an Orthodox Jewish woman who cannot have somebody come into her house. If you've ever been with Orthodox Jewish people, it's you feel really awkward for a while because you're not sure. I went to, I'm a very huggy person, and I went to hug somebody, and they're like, it's just not done. You don't shake hands with an Orthodox Jewish woman. They don't touch the opposite sex. They just have different standards, higher standards, quite honestly, higher standards than you are used to by any stretch of the imagination.
Very inappropriate for a woman to be alone with a man other than her husband.
Not very inappropriate.
Yeah, they don't do it.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. You are not alone with somebody other than your husband. All right. So that's the setting of this story. This woman is an Orthodox Jewish woman. She was arrested and told to turn over her guns after she showed up at her city council meeting or at her community center to protest peacefully about what the city was doing on taxes. And here's what was happening in New Jersey. They had a mandatory home reevaluation, and it doubled her property tax because her home price was doubled. Now, can I ask you a question? Has anybody's home price doubled in the last, unless you're in Texas, and even in Texas, they haven't doubled. In the last 4 years, has anyone's home price doubled? Outside of the Washington, D.C. area. In New Jersey, has anybody's home price doubled? Well, hers did, and so did all of her neighbors. And this was really neat because it was just a mandatory home reevaluation, and it was just spontaneous. It was just like, you know what? We have nothing going on now that we're, underwater or anything. We're just going to reevaluate everybody's homes. Mandatory. So she objected on multiple grounds. One of which she said, as an American citizen, I kind of object to the arbitrary reappraisal. I'm not planning on selling my home. I haven't renovated my kitchen in 30 years. I'm kind of against this just spontaneous spur of the moment. What the heck? Let's reevaluate the homes.
A lot of outdated kitchens double in value, though. Especially
You know
lately.
what? You know what's really hot in the market right now? Old kitchens.
Old kitchens that
30
are
years old.
like the laminate countertop.
Oh, yeah. That is...
You don't want
in faded peach
like
or
granite.
Pink.
Yeah,
if
peach is
you
great.
have the olive green,
they do.
that is so hot right now.
With a pattern. Yeah.
That'll triple the home price.
And if you have like old kind of nasty cabinets
Yeah.
and
Yes.
old refrigerator or an electric stove.
Oh my gosh, people love that.
They love it.
They go, I haven't seen an electric stove. This is exactly what we're looking for.
They're clamoring for homes with 30-year-old kitchens in them.
Yeah, like when they
clamoring.
When the laminate's sort of peeling up so you can fit things under there nicely and easily.
You can keep your knives there.
Your
You don't
change.
have to. You don't your change, your knives. It's all kind. See, that's the kind of those unlimited possibilities.
And it's where cockroaches can go, so you don't have to see them.
Yes, it's great. It's great. Anyway, so of course her home doubled, in price at a time when housing prices are collapsing. But who knew? I didn't know when I first started reading this.
Well, yeah, when you find out
30-year-old kitchen.
It's a 30-year-old kitchen, then you know.
So she objects as an American citizen. But she also said, I can't let inspectors into my home. And she said, because you'll have to make an appointment when my husband is home because I can't let you into my home. And so what right does the state have to just guess at what's inside of well, I think she's got a very nice kitchen in there. They just guessed at what her home was like on the inside.
It turned out they were right, but...
Well, yeah, it was
they didn't
a 30-year-old kitchen.
Yeah.
Some might disagree that would double your... Anyway. She said, how could you assume that the value of my house has doubled when there is no housing market? There's no GDP growth. How are you assuming my house has doubled in price? Well, the people that represent the city and are doing the appraising said that she said that they started freaking out. Now, she says in this, and this is all witnessed, that in this meeting, she was told to sit down and shut up. And they were there to enforce the law. She said, what is your title? The title of this individual was tax assessor. She said, show me your badge, because I don't think you're a law enforcement officer. I think you're a tax assessor. Well, then they started talking down to her like she was a 2-year-old, and she was told to be quiet. And she said, I have a right to speak out against this. This is a public place. My tax dollars pay your salary. And the tax assessor said, I don't work for you. Well, then who does the tax assessor work for, if not the people of the town? Who does that person work for? At that point, Appraisals Systems Incorporated representative started advancing towards her and about to grab her arm. She's an Orthodox Jew, and she says, don't touch me. Well, then they left. Now, she's in the parking lot. She's walking in the parking lot, and she's home. And the guy who was aggressive towards her, the one who was part of the, part of the team, I guess, that came out to her house, he hunts her down in the parking lot. Now, she says that he starts screaming at her. He runs after us in the parking lot like a banshee. His face was purple. He was disheveled. He started to take down my license plate and then ran off. When he got to the doors of the building, he turned and screamed at her and her husband, let's see if you can pay your taxes now. He says none of that happened. He says instead, he was just minding his own business, and he went out, and she threatened to go get a gun and come kill them all. Well, that's what Orthodox Jews do usually, Mm-hmm. I've talked to some Palestinians. They know. When she gets home, there are police cars surrounding her house. And the officers say, we got to come in for questioning. And she says, do you have a warrant for my arrest? What am I being arrested for? Well, she was not allowed to drive behind with her husband. She was forced to ride in the police vehicle. Apparently, this guy told the police that she was yelling and screaming and threatened to return to the meeting with a gun. And she told the Blaze, I did not use one curse word. I didn't use the word gun. I didn't swear. None of it. I aired my grievances at a public place to tell the government I did not agree with what they were doing to me or anyone else. The police handcuffed her to a chair when she got to the police department and charged her with terroristic threats. She said, I have a 7-year-old daughter. I homeschool her. I would never risk going to prison for the rest of my life and lose everything. I have no criminal history. I have no history of drug abuse. I have no history of alcohol abuse. I have no history of mental illness. I have never committed a crime a day in my life. But because I used my First Amendment right, I was arrested for it. She said the police then tried to coerce her in making a statement along the lines of what he thinks happened. Hart said the police sergeant informed her that if she didn't turn over her firearms for safekeeping, her bail would be set so high that it would be unclear how long she would have to remain in custody. She said, so my choice was sit in jail and my daughter doesn't have a mother, or turn in my firearms. She turned over her 2 firearms and associated equipment and was told she would get them back when this was all over. She said she has hired a fantastic attorney, and the Blaze will be following this. If quoting the Constitution makes me a terrorist, then we are living in Hitler's America, she said. That's not the only gun story that is out there. Pro-Second Amendment woman stumps a representative, Jim Moran, on gun control. Here's what she said, and then she was escorted out because she said, I want an answer. He wouldn't answer, and she was escorted out. Listen.
But why aren't you pro-choice when it comes to self-defense for women?
So her first question is, why aren't you pro-choice? when it comes to self-defense for women.
Yeah, you're pro-choice on abortion, but why aren't you pro-choice on my self-defense?
Tell women how they should defend themselves. For example, why don't you guys listen to the young rape victims in Colorado when they said that if they had a gun, that it could prevent their attacker?
So hopefully you can understand all that. She's wondering about why they didn't listen to the rape victims in Colorado who said if they had a gun, they could have warded off their attackers.
Real split crowd, too.
Yeah,
I mean, the crowd
listen
is
to the
really
split there.
divided here.
Yeah.
Why do you legislate women into being victims? That's all I want to know.
And why are you legislating women to be victims? That's all I want to know.
Why can't you answer?
And all Moran is saying, now this is a U.S. congressman. All right, let's move on to the next question. She's like, wait, what?
Why can't you answer?
I want to move on now. I want to move on to the next question. And she's trying to get him to answer why he won't give her an answer.
Question. Really? Why can't you?
And all he says is, because I want to move on now. So he refused to answer any of the questions
Now,
in
here's
any
the
way.
interesting thing. He was protected by armed police. He was protected by people who had guns. Those in the audience weren't allowed to have guns, of course. But he feels he needs protection from the people. But the people certainly shouldn't even consider needing protection from an out-of-control government because they're not out of control. They'll come and talk to the people. They'll answer the questions. They'll be held accountable. Oh, no, wait. He wasn't held accountable. He wouldn't answer the questions. And he was the one with armed security.